Hello friends, today we'll take up issues related to children. General Studies paper 2 has one section, welfare schemes for the vulnerable section. This particular section that we have, the topic that we're going to talk about is going to address that. So issues related to children, what are some of the mechanisms that we have to handle it? So that is what we are going to cover. So before we start, just like in other sessions, we'll just look through, go through what we are going to cover. First we'll try to understand who is the child, how do you define a child, what's the meaning of a child. And then we'll see whether children have any specific rights, any exclusive rights. Then we will look at different constitutional statutory provisions, different policies for children. In case there's an action plan, we'll see that. And then we will discuss some basic issues which are quite frequently in the news related to children. So this is going to be the entire framework for today's session. So we'll start with the meaning of child. Who is a child? How do you differentiate a child from an adult? So United Nations Convention on the Right of Child, it says a child means every human being below the age of 18 years, but there's a condition here, unless under the law applicable to a child, majority is attained earlier. So everyone below the age of 18 is considered as a child, but there are some exceptions. If there is any other law according to which you can attain majority even before 18 years of age, then you will not be considered child as per that law. That means there is discretion on the part of the countries who have signed or have ratified this particular convention, so they can define child in their own way. They can have their own laws which can define children in different ways. So there is no such uniform definition of child. UNCRC also provides for some sort of discretion. In case of India also, the same thing applies. We have multiple laws, and multiple laws will define majority in different ways. How many are attaining majority? For example, census, according to census, anyone who is below the age of 14 is a child. But again, there are different social scientists. What they will do when they are talking about a girl child, okay, they will refer to those girls who are in the age category 15 to 19 as well. At the same time, there are different government programs which are directed towards children who are less than 14 years of age. So no uniform criteria under which you can say this person is a child. And we can see some more laws on the screen. For example, Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act. According to it, the age of a child is 14 years. Factories Act, Plantation Labour Act. According to it, someone who is below the age of 15 years. Juvenile Justice Act. According to it, someone who is below the age of 18 years. Protection of children from sexual offences, someone below the age of 18 years. Under Juvenile Justice Act, again, it creates two categories. Those who are below the age of 16, those who are in the age category 16 to 18. So the whole point here is different laws are there and different laws specify at what point one can attain majority. So the age at which one ceases to be a child varies. But one thing here, the question here, do children enjoy rights? What kind of rights children enjoy? United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, it talks about different rights children should ideally enjoy. And if you look at these rights, they can be broadly classified into four categories. Every child should be accessing or should have access to these kind of rights. Now, what are these rights? So the first right is the right to survival. An individual, a child should have the right to survive. See, only if you are surviving, then only you can enjoy the rights. So first thing is important. First thing is survival. So right to survival. It also includes right to health and nutrition. Because survival depends on the fact whether you are having access to health or nutrition. So right to survival is important. Next thing, once you have survived, a child also needs to develop his or her potential. So right to development is the next important factor. So development, what does it include? Development means how can you ensure development of an individual? Right to education. Education helps one attain one's full potential. Leisure can also be included here because leisure also impacts your personality, helps develop your personality. So right to development means access to education, access to leisure facilities. A child also has the right to protection. Protection from what? Protection from different kind of abuses, exploitation, protection from child labor, protection from trafficking, protection from sexual abuse. So a child has a right to protect himself or herself from all these kind of issues. Also, the child has the right to participate in the social processes, cultural processes. So every child has all these rights, and these are very important. Keep all these rights in mind, and whenever there's a question about the status of children in India, let's say, so you should be able to map it with this, whether we have provided the right to survival, whether we have provided the right to development, whether we have provided the right to protection, whether they are able to participate in society. And if we have provided the rights, then what is the status? So these 3-4 terms can help you answer many of the questions related to children. So these are the rights as per the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child. Our own constitution also talks about certain provisions for children. What are these provisions? Article 15 of the Constitution. According to Article 15 of the Constitution, a state can make affirmative action or it can do positive discrimination in favor of women and children. So children are included here. So state can make special provision for women and children. Article 21A, state shall provide for free and compulsory education to all children in the age category 6 to 14 years. So we can say the right to education. Every child has the right to free and compulsory education. Every child in the age category 6 to 14 years. Article 24 of the Constitution, it prohibits employment of children in factories. Child labor is not allowed, it's prohibited. Till now we have discussed fundamental rights. Article 39 and Article 45, they are directive principles. Now Article 39 says that the tender age of children should not be abused. And they should not be forced to take up certain vocations, certain activities which is unsuited for their age. They should not be forced into child labor kind of activities. And no activity which should impact them should be taken up. State should also provide them sufficient opportunity and facilities so that they can develop in a healthy manner. It should provide freedom and dignity. It should protect them from exploitation. It should protect them from moral and material abandonment. So many of the things that we are seeing in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child are already present in Article 39 of our Constitution directive principle. A child should not be taking up those activities. State should ensure that a child is not forced out of economic necessity to take up any activity which is not suitable for his age or strength. Children should be given opportunities and facilities for development of their health. They should be provided freedom and dignity. They should be protected from exploitation, from moral and material abandonment. Another directive principle, Article 45, it talks about, it says that the state should provide for early childhood care and education. In the age category 0 to 6 years, different kind of care should be provided. If possible, education should also be provided. See, these two are just these two are directive principles, 39 and 45. They are not justiciable. They are just some guidance for the governments to follow. So these are some constitutional provisions. What are some statutory provisions? What are some laws that we have created for children? Guardian and Wards Act 1890 very old. It talks about the provisions under which how guardian can be created or how courts can give guardianship status to someone, how it can be removed. Every child might require a guardian, so courts how they provide a guardian. Provision of Child Marriage Act 2006. Child marriage is prohibited. Previously there was a Child Marriage Restraint Act. It has been now the law that we have is prohibition. Child marriage should not only be restrained, it should be prohibited. So we have a law for this. Child labor is also prohibited and regulated. So Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act. Then there is Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act. Preconception Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act is there. Here what they try to do, they prevent or they, according to this particular law, all those methods which are used for determination of gender of the fetus, they are illegal. They are banned. You cannot determine the gender of the fetus. Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act. Those children who are in need of care or those children who are in conflict with law, what are the provisions for them? So some statutory provisions for children. Now we will look at some policies that we have in place, some action plan that we have in place for our children. National Policy of Children 2013. Previously also we have had questions from this part. What is the National Policy of Children? So what is this national policy? Now this particular policy, according to it, it defines who is a child. Anyone who is below the age of 18 years is considered to be a child under this. This policy says that children are not homogeneous category. There are different categories within the entire group. Some are more deprived, some are less deprived. So children, it is not a homogeneous group. Why it is important to make this distinction? Because some children might require more attention, they might be more vulnerable. So your policy should be directed accordingly. Then this particular law, it says you have to provide social safety net to the family, you have to nurture the child. And it also acknowledges, or it also recognizes the fact that every child has some basic rights. These rights are universal, inalienable, indivisible. What do we mean by these terms? Universal means these rights are applicable to each and every child. You can differentiate between children. All children have some universal rights. These rights are inalienable. These rights cannot be taken away from them. And these rights are indivisible. You cannot give them a minimum version of that right. It is not possible. So each and every child has certain rights. And what are these rights? So the same rights that we have talked about when you were in the United Nations Convention for the Rights of Child. Same thing they are also using, but a slightly different manner. So they are saying every child has the right to survival, health and nutrition. Every child has the right to education and development. Every child has the right to protection. Also every child has the right to participation. Each child should enjoy all these rights. Okay. Protection, survival, education, development. So these things are very important. Now the next thing here, that was the national policy. So policy talks about the longer goals, objectives. But then how do we achieve that policy? So for that we have a national action plan for children 2016. So the focus areas that we saw, how do we achieve those focus areas is broadly mentioned in the national action plan. So how do we ensure survival of the child? How do we ensure health of the child? How do we ensure nutrition of the child? It says that we have to universalize maternal child health care. That means every child, every expecting mom should get access to health care. And specialized healthcare, maternal health is a specialized field of health. Child health again is specialized. So you need to provide them those kind of care. For example, proper nutrition should be provided to the mother when she is pregnant or she is lactating, because the child derives nutrition from the mother. Similarly, the child should be provided all the immunization, whatever immunization schedule is there as per it, it should be immunized. Newborns, you have to promote universal immunization among newborns, and we also need to focus on some medical technologies, or we need to focus on some disciplines. We need to focus on some areas. For example, prenatal healthcare, parental healthcare, postnatal healthcare. If we are promoting research and development in these sectors, we might come up with better technology, we might come up with better innovations. And if we focus on maternal child health, on all these things, then we can also reduce mental and physical disabilities. So child health, survival, and nutrition is very important. Next thing they are saying, we need to focus on education and development. What has to be done? They are saying we have to provide universal and equitable access to child care and education. Universal means education should be provided to everyone. Everyone should be there. Equitable means those who require more should be provided more. Those who are more vulnerable, again, for them, their approach might be different. They might require something more. You have to provide that. Universal, equitable, early childhood care and education is important. Apart from that, secondary education should also be affordable and accessible. And quality should be good. One of the challenges we face is learning outcomes are very hard. We have to take care of that. When it comes to protection and participation, they are saying we need to strengthen all the legislative, administrative, institutional mechanisms, governance mechanisms. All these things have to be strengthened. And children should be part of the policy making process as well. See, when you are drafting a policy, you have to take into consideration whether this policy will benefit people or not. We many times we create policies, the intended benefits are something, but something else happens. Why is the problem? Because someone else drafts the policy for someone else. So children should be part of the policy formulation process. Some pilot projects involving children should be carried out, and that can help improve our policies. So children should actively participate in planning and implementing of programs. That is important. Apart from that, National Action Plan also says that we need to take sustainable development goals into account. We have to take into consideration emerging concerns of children. Sustainable development goals, certain goals identified for the period 2016-2030, and these are not binding targets, but if you follow it, you are also improving, and the overall health status, overall economic status, overall education status, everything will improve the global community. So this is about National Action Plan. It gives effect to the national policy. And national policy, it talks about the same kind of rights which United Nations Convention also talks about. Now, we will look at some specific issues, and we will also look at some specific legal mechanisms to address that. So first thing, we will look at the legal mechanism of protection of children from Sexual Offences Act. Sexual offences against children, one of the type of violation against the rights of a child. A child has a right to protection. Sexual offense violates that right. It impacts the physical health, it can impact the mental health of the child, it can impact the child in the longer run. So it can also impact the development of a child to his or her fullest potential. So we have a legal mechanism in place for protecting children from sexual offences. So what are some of the features of this particular law? This law defines, it gives a very comprehensive definition of the different kinds of sexual offences against children. It also talks about something called as aggravated offense. Some offences can be committed by people who the child should have ideally trusted. For example, a police officer or a doctor. These kind of offences in which a person who should be trusted is committing, these are called aggravated offences. So the penal provisions are different. Apart from this, it creates certain institutions. For example, National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights at the central level, State Commission for the Protection of Child Rights. These institutions have to ensure that the rights of children are protected under their jurisdiction. It also streamlines the mechanism of reporting and trial. How reporting has to happen, how trial has to happen, it streamlines it. It makes it more child friendly. For example, a police official. If a child has to meet a police official, the police official should be in civil dress, not in uniform. Video recording. The trial can be through video conference. Those kind of child friendly measures have also been incorporated. And a significant part of this particular law is we are meeting our international obligations. We have signed different treaties and agreements for prevention of sexual offences, or for providing different safeguards against sexual offences against children. So we are meeting those obligations. We are having laws, but there are different implementation challenges. Some issues when it comes to implementing this particular law. What is the biggest challenge here? See, in most of the cases in India, in 9 out of 10 cases, the perpetrator and the victim they know each other. Generally, the perpetrator is someone who's a relative or who's a family friend. And families do not report these cases because they feel it can lead to loss of family honor, is the term they use quite frequently. So if people do not report these kind of cases, then again, how will law take its own course? So reporting is not there because again, there's a lot of stigma associated with these kind of cases. Apart from that, the bodies that we are creating, State Commission, National Commission, they are also not functional. Many states they do not want functionalities. So these problems are there. Apart from this, police officials they are not sensitized to these specific issues. These kind of laws they are not uniformly applied across states. Some states they might be strict, some states they might not be. Within states also there is sort of variation. So because of this, this particular law is not implemented properly. And in recent times there has been an increase in these kind of instances. Between 2001 and 2011, 36% increase in the type of these type of cases, sexual violence against children. But these numbers can point to two things. One is yes, the violence against children has increased during this period of time. So again, this means there is a negative thing. But it can also point to another thing. The reporting of these kind of offences has also increased. That means the stigma that we're talking about is gradually decreasing. So it is a welcome thing. It is a welcome step. Stigma is decreasing. And a very important aspect here is what we're trying to do. We are using law to check some sort of crime. But I told you before, law takes time. Law has some limitations. So for these kind of cases, we have some changes at the societal level. Social stigma related to these kind of things has to be reduced. Sex education needs to be promoted. Children should be told what is the difference between good touch and bad touch. Sex education in schools should be mandatory. Generally, the perception is there that we should not provide sex education. There are so many conservative elements in society who hold these views. This kind of views can create hindrances when it comes to protection of children from sexual offences. And in recent times, the positive step has been social media. Many people have taken to social media and they have come up with their own stories. Many celebrities they have also come up with their examples or their stories how they were abused when they were children and how they overcome all these things, and they're also spreading awareness. These kind of stories can play a very important part in reducing the social stigma. Another law which is quite there in the news related to children is Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act. Many times you will have come across this. What is this law about? Who it is targeting? What is the main purpose? So Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act, it talks about two types of children. One kind of children who are in conflict with the law, who have committed some form of crime. It also talks about another kind of children who are in need of care and protection. So maybe children who street children, children who are orphans, children who have been trafficked. So they are in need of care and protection. So this particular law, Juvenile Justice Act, it tries to resolve the issues of both these kind of children. Now, those who are in conflict with the law, what is the provision? If someone who is in the age category 16 to 18 years has committed a heinous crime, heinous crimes are those crimes in which the punishment is more than 7 years. So if a person in the age category 16 to 18 years has committed a heinous crime, then that particular case is referred to Juvenile Justice Board. Juvenile Justice Board takes this case and then it decides whether this particular individual should be treated as an adult or he or she should be treated as a juvenile. If that person is treated as an adult, again, the normal course of law will take over. In case that person is treated as a juvenile, then that person will be sent to a juvenile home. If it's found to be accused, he will be sent to a juvenile home. Juvenile homes are these institutions where rehabilitation of children who are in conflict with nature takes place. They provide education, skill development, counseling facilities so that when they are out of his home, they can adjust to the society. So JJB has a role to play. It does an inquiry and it ensures rehabilitation of the child. And in case JJB decides that this person has to be treated as an adult, the normal course of law will be there. So child in conflict with law are handled in this manner. What about child in need of care and protection? So this particular law creates different child welfare, has provisions for creation of child welfare committees which will provide institutional care to children who are in need of care and protection. It also is providing statutory status to Central Adoption Resource Authority. So again, it is streamlining the adoption process. Children are there who are in need of protection. So and there will be parents who want to adopt kids. So this particular authority, Central Adoption Resource Authority, will be a link between these kids who need protection and the families who want to adopt kids. This particular law also talks about new offences against children. Some offences which can relate to trafficking, which can relate to adoption. Sometimes children are trafficked, so they can be sold somewhere and then later on can lead to adoption. So those kind of offences are also included here. So these are basic features of the law. What are some of the key issues, key debates? What were some of when this particular law was being amended or when this law was formulated, when it was amended, in recent times it was amended, after that Vibha incident. So there were different debates around it. For example, one debate was regarding deterrence versus reformative approach. So what is this approach? What is deterrence? Deterrence means you make the law so strong that people are afraid to commit it. The other approach, reformative approach, means it takes into consideration the fact that every individual is a member of the society. So social processes shape an individual. So if a person is committing a crime, it is because of the way he has been shaped in society. When an individual is born, his mind is completely blank, it's a blank slate. But over a period of time, he gets socialized. The different elements of society, the family teaches something, the peer circle teaches something, his school network teaches something. So he takes a lot of things from the society and accordingly behaves. Criminal behavior is also a consequence of this process of socialization. So reformative approach means if a person has committed a crime, he should be given a chance to reform himself. So it created that debate when we are making these laws very strong. When we are treating someone who is at the age of 16, 17 as adults, so they're questioning why should we not go for affirmative approach? Why are we going for a different approach? So that debate was there. Apart from that, the bill was referred to the amendment was referred to the Standing Committee of Parliament. The Standing Committee was of the view that this bill is based on some misleading data. The number of these kind of instances where juveniles have taken law into their own hands, juveniles have been involved in heinous crimes, that is very less. So they're saying on the basis of misleading data, you should not go for a bill. Apart from that, the other issue, the infrastructural issues, in case a person in decided that that person should be sent to a juvenile home, what will he be reformed? The question is that juvenile homes are maintained by the states, and there have been different studies, different reports which point to the fact that the basic facilities that should have been available in juvenile homes, like education, skill development, counseling, that is not there. So even if they're sent to juvenile homes, will they be reformed? The question is that. And in case a person is sent to adult prison, those who are in the age 16 to 18 years have committed heinous crime, if they're sent to adult prison, will they get reformed in the process? Because prisons do not provide a very good experience. Our prisons staffing may be on the capacity, the number of inmates is too high, and also there are chances that these children in the age 16 to 18, they might even become hardened criminals. So that issue was also there. Another thing was there that UNCRC treats every child under 18 as equal. So we might be violating UNCRC, but UNCRC again has that discretion under a particular law. You can decide when majority can be attained. This was a controversy related to Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act. Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act. What is the reason for prevalence of child labour in the society? See, if you think about it, child labour can be due to both supply side reasons and it can also be due to demand side reasons. There is a supply of child labourers to the industry. Poverty is one of the biggest factors for supply of children to industries. There are families who cannot afford 2 square meals a day. So in that case, they feel, or if they send their children to industry, at least they can ensure these 2 square meals a day. So poverty is a huge factor. Apart from that, another reason can be the failure of our education system. Some parents feel that the education system that we have right now is of no use. Even if they send their children to school, they will not get gainfully employed in the future. So there are different questions related to education system, whether children are actually learning in this system. Different learning outcome reports also point to the same fact. And also, if you might have studied, you might have observed this. In case of India, primary educational enrollment is almost 100%, but there is a high dropout rate. This shows that parents are willing to send their kids initially, but at some point of time they realize that maybe education is not benefiting their children. That is the reason they take back their children to their homes and then they get sent them to child labour. So there are supply reasons. Failure of education system and poverty is the reason why child labour happens, or why you have a supply of child labourers to the industry. At the same time, there is demand for child labourers. Some sectors in the economy, they prefer to have child labourers. For example, some sectors like carpet making, they get benefited because of the nimble fingers of the children. Then children are fast learners. They can be easily trained. So again, children are beneficial for hiring child labourers. Also, children will not demand much. You can easily control children. They will not form unions. They will not do bargaining, and the wages that you give to children again will be less. So there are some benefits for the industry as well. So supply side reasons are there, demand side reasons are there, and because of the convergence, child labour still exists. But yes, in recent times, the number of child labourers has decreased in India, and that is a positive thing. So this particular law that we have, Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act, what does it talk about? What are the provisions related to child labour? As per this law, child labour is banned across all sectors for children below the age of 14. In all sectors, child labour is banned except for family, except for working within family enterprises or as child artist. And but here there's a clause: you can do this work only after school hours during holidays. Those who are in the age category 14 to 18 years, they can work, but they cannot work in hazardous occupation. So non-hazardous occupation only they can work. And again, in case someone is found to violate all these things, very strict punishment is there. A rehabilitation fund has also been set up to ensure that those who have been working as child labourers, we can take them out, and how do we ensure their rehabilitation through utilizing the money in this fund. What are the positives of this particular law? So we are fulfilling the mandate of International Labour Organization. We are banning child labour. Those who are in the age category 14 to 20, they can also work in hazardous occupation. And this particular law can help improve education at academic levels. It can help improve literacy rates, participation of children in school. It can increase. At the same time, it can have an impact on the health of the child. Sometimes because of child labour, health of the child can get impacted. So now those kind of things are checked. Child abuse can be restricted. Also, the economy can also get impacted in the long run. See, if a child is not going for education, that means he's not gaining skills. He might be gaining some skills in the industry, but those skills are very primary skills, very basic skills. And over a period of time, skill development has not happened much. If you are getting educated, the level of skills that you acquire over time is very high. And if you are having a skilled population, then your economy will also be benefiting from that. So that is again another positive. One more thing positive you can consider is this particular law is more realistic. Realistic in the sense that it assumes or it has taken into consideration the fact that many families in India are not able to afford to spend this. It takes into consideration the reality that many family enterprises are there, they cannot afford to have labourers from outside. So that is the reason it has allowed for child labour in family enterprises, but with some clauses after working after school hours. So this is a positive here. What are some challenges? What can be some negative of this particular law? One important issue here is the exceptions that they have given. The exemptions that is there. That one can work in family enterprises, family businesses, outside school hours. But the problem here is how to regulate all these things, how to find all these things. It might not be easy. How to go inside the family and do all these things. So it is not easy. Then second thing, the definition of family. You are saying family enterprise you can work, but how do you define a family? Again, it can be controversial. The definition of family can change from place to place. Apart from that, if a family forces the kid to work and the child is not willing to work, it is nothing but slavery. What mechanisms do you have for this? So those penalty provisions are not there. Apart from that, a very major issue here. This particular law, it says that those who are in the age category 14 to 18 years, they cannot work in hazardous occupation. But the definition of hazardous occupation or the number of industries which used to fall under hazardous occupation, it has been reduced. Previously, 83 industries were there, now it has been reduced to 3. So again, it can be used as a loophole to promote child labour. So this law has some positive dimensions, but it also has some negative connotations. Both things you should keep in mind. Now, do we have any other provision or any other scheme for prevention of child labour? So we have a project, ongoing project for a very long time. This is called the National Child Labour Project. So what is National Child Labour Project? It is one of those projects to prevent child labour. Also, if someone was involved in child labour, try to mainstream them, bring them back to education. If someone is involved in hazardous occupation activity, take them out of hazardous occupation, provide them with some basic education. So what they are trying to do here? So they are mainstreaming education here. They are providing all services that is required for a child. Maybe education is one of those things. Apart from that, other services can be required which can prevent the child from moving back to child labour. In case someone was working in hazardous occupation, we need to withdraw them. We have to provide them. When you are withdrawing them, we have to also ensure that that person is provided with some skills. Appropriate training is provided so that he can take up some appropriate job in future. Also, as part of the project, different awareness programs are conducted. Awareness is generated among different stakeholders, among the family, among the employers. Everywhere awareness is generated. Also, we need to keep this in mind that if a child has been brought from or a child has been withdrawn from child labour, there are high chances that he or she can fall back to child labour. So you need to have a system which can continuously monitor, track the status of the child who have been withdrawn from child labour. So how they are going about it, how this project goes about it, who does it target? It has basically 3 stakeholder targets here. It is targeting those children who are below the age of 14, they should not be involved in any labour activity. Those who are in the age category 14 to 18, they should not be involved in hazardous occupation. They also target the family of the child workers. Many times it is the family who support child workers. So again, awareness campaign, try to talk out with the families so that they do not send their kids to labour activities. What is the strategy they are using? They are trying to create an enabling environment in which a child does not need to work. How they do it? Maybe the household. They are sending their children because they are poor. So try to provide them some sort of alternate incomes. So enable the household so that they are not forced to send their kids to labour activities. And this kind of thing, it requires coordination between state, district, civil society, NGOs, different organizations like Bachchan Chandra, they play a very important role. It is also the joint responsibility of Ministry of Labour and the state governments. So this way, this particular project is being carried out, and the number of child labourers in India has decreased over time. A very positive thing. Next, we will discuss some issues related to children and sex ratio. So children and gender inequality. So in the recent census report, 2011 census, what we find out that the number of women in the population increased from 933 to 940. But children in that age category, children in the age category 0 to 6, their number decreased. When girl child, it decreased. So we have less number of girl children now as compared to what we had in 2001. So this points to the fact that discrimination against the girl child is happening. Girls are not given equal preference as compared to their male counterparts. Also, other reports are there. medical journal, Lancet also says it had a study in 2006 which said that in last 20 years, 10 million girl children have been aborted. There are different temples in India where people go and pray so that they can get a male child. Also, girls are neglected, females are neglected when it comes to health and education. If there's a family, they don't have sufficient resources, they have 2 kids, male and a female kid, they will give resources to the male kid, not the female kid. So all these points to the fact that among children, girl child is lagging behind, she is discriminated. And what can be the reasons for this kind of thing? There can be economic reasons. India's family and agricultural country. People want more helping hands in the farm. So in that case, having a boy child might be advantageous because we have a society which is petty local, petty lineal, patriarchal. Girls after their marriage, they go to their husband's house. So it is a petty local setup. So having sons is advantageous because they will contribute to the family's income. Lack of old age security pension schemes are not there. So because of that also, some families would want to have more number of male kids. Social utility. India is a patrilineal society. Surnames, it is carried by the male members. So kinship patterns are also traced to male members. Again, this can be social reason. Apart from that, dowry is another economic as well as social evil. It can also be the reason why male child is preferred. Some religious reasons can be there, cultural reasons can be there for the preference of male child. What kind of cultural reason? For example, the funeral pyre, the last rites are generally carried out by the son. Then only the person is supposed to reach heaven. So religious, cultural reasons can also be there. Apart from that, implementation issues. We have preconception prenatal diagnostic techniques and it prevents determination of the gender of the fetus. All these technologies which can identify that are prevented, but this has not been properly implemented. So it is all this leads to a situation in which we have less number of girl children as compared to boy children. So it is a very alarming thing. Apart from that, another area of concern is health, the health of our kids. So it is said that in case of India, we continue to lose children to those health issues which could have been prevented by vaccines. For example, different respiratory diseases like measles, which could have been easily avoided using vaccines. We are still children are dying out of it. Many children die because of tetanus. It's still a problem. UNICEF reported in 2015, according to it, 1.2 billion children die from preventable infections. These infections could have been easily prevented, but our children are dying because of it. 12 lakh. It's a huge number. Infant mortality rates in India very high, 34. Compared with countries like US, it is just 6. Compared with countries in our neighborhood, Sri Lanka, it is also very less. So we need to improve on these lines. Apart from that, this infant mortality rate is also skewed against female infants. The data for 2015, the infant mortality rates among boys was 35, infant mortality rate among girls was 39. More if it is a girl child, if a girl infant is there, high chances that she will not survive. So when it comes to healthcare, we need to improve on this. What about children and education? In last few decades, there have been some positives when it comes to education. We formulated the Right to Education Bill. It got enacted, Right to Education Act. Now it is one of the fundamental rights, Article 21 of the Constitution. Every child has a right to free and compulsory education. Every child can 6 to 14 years. It also talks about neighborhood schooling system. That means within a particular distance, if there is a human habitat, within a particular distance there has to be a school. So that distance should not be a barrier to learning. Apart from that, we also invested heavily in education infrastructure in schools. Schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan played a very important role. We also introduced schemes for education of teacher, promotion of quality learning. We also introduced midday meal. Midday meal was introduced so as to ensure attendance of school children, preventing absenteeism of school children, also to ensure a good nutritional status for our children. India is one of those countries which has a large prevalence of under malnutrition. So to check that, we are also introducing midday meal schemes. So every child in the school gets food free of cost. So there have been a lot of changes in education, but there are a lot of problems now also. One of the biggest problems here is poverty. Each and every child is not almost going to school. It is the primary school, but the dropout rates are high. If 10 kids are joining standard 1, by standard 8, at least 4 kids will be dropping out. So, and one of the reasons is poverty, because many parents feel that they are not getting benefit of education, so since they are poor, it is better for them to start working in some labor activity, at least they will get some amount of money. So, poverty is one of the hindrances when it comes to education. Apart from that, the learning outcomes, the quality of education is questioned many times. Pratham is an NGO which studies all these things. What is the learning outcome? It finds that a child in the 5th standard is not able to read text of 2nd standard. Also, the infrastructure is lacking. At each school should have 9 basic infrastructure, but hardly 4.8% of the government schools have all these infrastructure. Most of them do not have this. So, and because of lack of infrastructure, many girl children, they drop out of schools in the high standards. Apart from that, sometimes parents children, they also might lack motivation because parents feel they might not get a job even after going for education. So, education is a key challenge. Now, another issue related to children is the prevalence of child marriage. In case of India, the legal age of marriage for a male child is 21 years and for a female is 18 years. But in case of India, 27% of the girls they get married before the age of 18. This was according to United Nations Children Fund report 2017 report. 7% of the girls get married before the age of 15. And these numbers are skewed in favor of rural areas. That means in rural areas you have more child marriages. Also, certain areas these kind of marriages are more prevalent. Central India, Western India, it is more prevalent. What is the reason why child marriage still continues? It has been a tradition, and that tradition continues. And this tradition can be due to multiple factors. One of the factors is the undue importance given to chastity, virginity. So as soon as a child attends, as a female child attends puberty, she is married off. Sometimes she can be married off before puberty as well. Virginity is given a lot of importance. Apart from that, sometimes females might be considered as an economic burden. So again, parents might want to get married off to a better family. And this burden is because of dowry and all these things. And we have had laws to check child marriage, but enforcement has not been very successful. So child marriage does exist. And because of child marriage, it has a lot of implications on the female child specifically. How child marriage impacts child. Because of child marriage, the health of a female will get impacted. It might so happen that the number of kids she is having that can increase. Now the period in which she will be having a child increases. So more number of pregnancies can be there. Also this particular female, she's very young. She might not have access to reproductive and sexual health services. She's not aware of all these things. So it can also lead to multiple number of pregnancies which do not have sufficient spacing in between. And she might have a pregnancy at a very young age. She might not be physically or emotionally prepared to handle that. So it can lead to greater maternal mortality. Apart from this, a female is going to a new household. She's very young. So it can make her more vulnerable and it can lead to incidents like domestic violence. Apart from that, she's very young because she has married at a very young age. Her education, her career, everything gets impacted. So her ability to take informed choices, her ability to take decisions can also get impacted in this process. So huge impact on the status of women because of child marriage. Do we have any laws to prevent child marriage? Yes, we do have. We had Child Marriage Restraint Act. Now we have Prohibition of Child Marriage Act of 2006. Apart from that, different states have their own campaigns to prevent, or they might have their own mechanisms to prevent child marriage. One of the mechanisms right now going on in Rajasthan is Sanjha Abhiyan campaign. It is in collaboration with the United Nations Population Fund and UNICEF. There is a campaign in which they try to raise awareness about the issues with child marriage, what are the evils associated with child marriage. These kind of things require grassroots mobilization. Sanjha Abhiyan is trying to handle that. Another key issue that we see among children is the issue of undernutrition. So if you look at the number of children who are stunted, that means their height is less as compared to what it should have been for their age. That is around 38.4%. Number of children who are wasted, 21%. That means their weight is less for their height. The number of, or the prevalence of anemia, how many girl children are anemic? 56% of the girl children are anemic. Again, this thing was also the level of stunting, wasting, anemia. This was also pointed out by a report just called the Hunger and Malnutrition report. These all point to the fact that children in India lag behind when it comes to nutrition. They're not having sufficient food, or food availability might be a problem, or accessibility to food can be a problem, or it might also be because of utilization of food. The body is not able to utilize the food that they're getting. So these are some very important issues here. Now some questions that can come to mind. One question, whether nutrition is a human right issue. Whether lack of nutrition should be treated as deprivation of human rights. Yes. Why? Because lack of nutrition prevents participation of a person fully in the societal process. So it is basically deprivation of human rights. Your rights are being curtailed. Next thing is malnutrition because of inadequate food intake. See, malnutrition means both undernutrition as well as overnutrition. Undernutrition means you are not having sufficient food, which is inadequate food. It also means over intake of food. Obviously, will also fall into this. But malnutrition can be due to multiple factors. Next thing are nutrition and economic progress linked. If proper nutrition is there, economic progress will be there or not. If proper nutrition is there, that means you are having a healthy population. Healthy population is there, they will participate in the economy, or they will be more efficient, they will be more productive, so economy can get impacted. But do we need economic progress for nutrition? Do we need high growth rates for nutrition? So here again, we might require growth, but growth is not the only factor. We have countries in our neighborhood like Bangladesh. If you compare India's nutrition status and Bangladesh's nutrition status, they will do well. They do well in many of the socio-economic indicators, despite having a lower GDP per capita. Now, what can be the reason for this? See, economic growth is important, but how these resources help in many of the socio-economic indicators, despite having a lower GDP per capita. Now, what can be the reason for this? See, economic growth is important, but But how these resources are distributed, that is also important. Whether these resources are reaching everyone. Apart from that, health, nutrition, hygiene, sanitation, they are also important. You might have sufficient food, but an individual, if he's not healthy, if she's not healthy, might not, even if she's eating that food, might not be able to derive nutrition from that. So health, sanitation, other factors are also important for this. What can be some suggestions to improve the nutritional status of our children? You need to take the help of local partners, local government, women organizations, civil society organizations. You need to take their help. They are the ones who are aware of the local issues, local health issues. They are the ones who can hold government systems accountable when it comes to delivery of services. So take their help. There are different schemes, policies in place to ensure healthy status of children, but sometimes there is overlap. Convergence is not there. We have to ensure coordination, convergence, and monitoring of these schemes. Sanitation and drinking water facility. There should be convergence in that case. So who's handling all these things? We should see that. Apart from that, we need to promote some safe feeding practices. What kind of practice? For example, wash your hands before eating. Basic practices which can help address many of these health issues. Diarrhea is one of the reasons. High prevalence of death among children. It can be handled by basic practices. We need to have more research and development in perinatal care and neonatology. Healthcare or science related to technology related to newborns. Apart from that, we need to have as many early childhood care interventions as possible. Pregnancy till first 2 years of a child. This is the most important phase for growth of a child. If you are having all nutrition, or if you are dieting all nutrition at this period point of time, they can be healthy in the future. So target your interventions for this particular period. So this is how you can handle nutrition. So what we all discussed in children-related issues. We discussed who is a child, what are the different rights a child should enjoy, what is the constitutional protection for a child, what are the different legal protections a child has, or what are the different legal mechanisms we have, statutory provisions which can help in the socio-economic development of a child, also in the protection of a child. We also looked at some key issues, malnutrition, health education, issues related to health education, skewed sex ratio. So this is about child or child-related issues. So there can be questions from different angles. They can link women-related aspects, child-related aspects. They can link children with education, children with health. So you are now prepared, or you now understand all the dynamics. So you will be able to answer it. So that's it from my side for this session. Thank you.
Hello friends, welcome to Byju's classes. In this session, we are going to talk about the impact of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic on children. So the COVID-19 outbreak has impacted different sections of the population differently, and children have also been impacted by it. There are different ways by which they're impacted. We look at some of the dimensions. But before going into that, I would just like to recap what we know, what we already know about children. So who are children? I mean, there's no such uniform definition of who's a child. So again, we don't have one universal definition of a child. Rather, we have multiple laws, and different laws will have different clauses, and they will define who's a child in different ways. In some cases, it will be those who are below the age of 14. In some cases, it will be those who are below the age of 15. In some cases, it will be those who are below the age of 18. Yeah, but by and large, we understand who exactly is a child. We have a rough idea, and we know that children should have access to certain rights. India is a signatory of United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child. So children should have right to survival, they should have right to development, they should be protected from different kind of exploitation, and at the same time, they have the right to participate in the society. They should be part of the social process. So these are some rights children are entitled to. And in India, we have a national policy, national children policy. We also have a national action plan for children. And we have multiple laws which try to provide children a better life, which also try to prevent different kind of discrimination that children can face, which also protect children from different kind of atrocities. For example, you have laws which prevent child labor, we have laws which prevent child marriage, we have laws which prevent child sexual abuse. Now, during the pandemic, there have been certain things that has been observed. Different studies have pointed out this thing. There have been different reports. Crime reports, you have also pointed out certain kind of things. So we look at these dimensions. For example, it has been pointed out that the instances of child abuse, the instances of violence against children has increased. Apart from that, there's also a chance of increase in child labor due to the pandemic. We'll explore these dimensions. Apart from that, the way children get educated, that is changing nowadays, and this is something that we will be extensively dealing with when we discuss education and COVID-19. So there's a separate session on that. So refer to that. Apart from that, children and access to healthcare, again, there's a separate discussion on that. So in this session, we will be broadly talking about two things: the violence that children might face or are facing during this pandemic, during the time of the pandemic, because of the policies that we have, for example, lockdown policies. And second thing, child labor and pandemic. So let's start with the first thing: what makes children extremely vulnerable to violence during these trying and testing times? The first thing, as the pandemic is there, and different countries have different kind of policies, and most of them have had different kind of lockdowns. Some countries they have again stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, those kind of lockdowns. India also had lockdown, and then we also had unlockdown after that. But during the time of the lockdown, what happened? The children did not have sufficient opportunities to leave house and access help. So in case they're with adults and they are being subjected to different forms of violence, they were not able to go out and ask others for help. So fewer opportunities than adults to leave the house and access help in case help is required. Secondly, many children, especially those who are younger children, they might not understand. They're less likely to understand or have access to pathways for seeking help. I mean, they don't know what sort of help they can take, and whether they should be taking help or not. They don't know that. Apart from that, schools remain closed. Schools are those places, so they can be those safe spaces where you are also getting exposed to some sort of support network. Sometimes what happens is the child might be facing different kind of abuse, violence at home, and they can report it in some sort of network in the school. They can report it to the friends and who in turn can go and report it to the teachers. And within schools also you might have counselors who can provide different kind of help. Apart from that, the chance of online abuse has also increased as again the time children are spending online has also increased during this period of lockdown. And again, children, the kind of learning, the way learning is being provided, most of these things are being provided online, so children are spending more time on computers, and it also increases their vulnerability, increases the chance of online abuse. So this is the reason why children are extremely vulnerable, have been extremely vulnerable in the present times. There was a survey that was conducted by UNICEF, a social economic impact survey, and it finds out that 104 out of 136 countries reported a disruption in services related to violence against children. So different countries have different kind of mechanisms to deal with violence that a child can face. For example, in India also we have some of these mechanisms. We have, for example, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. We have child welfare committees. So many mechanisms are there. Integrated child protection schemes are also there. So what they're saying is different countries all over, they have different kind of provisions which can protect children from different types of violence. But what they find out is because of the pandemic, different countries had different policies. Many of these policies related to lockdown, and as a result of which the services that should have been provided to protect children, they got disrupted. So majority of the countries saw disruption of services, and many countries saw disruptions along multiple lines. I mean, it's not just one service that was being disrupted. Different kind of services were there. More than one service was also disrupted in many of these countries. So what all has been pointed out in this survey by UNICEF? The survey is saying that since the schools are closed, there are movement restrictions. So children had to stay with the abusers for longer durations at home. So within the home, there can be abusers, there are chances of abusers, and again, the abusers, they are also staying in stress situations. They cannot move out, most likely they've lost their source of income. Chances of alcohol use and all these things is also very high, and the children have to spend a large amount of time with them within the confines of the house. So this again increases the risk that the child faces. I would like to point out one thing here. This thing was pointed out before as well. That when it comes to child sexual abuse, 9 out of 10 times the perpetrator and the victim they know to each other. So most of the instances of child sexual abuse takes place within the household. And now what is happening? The perpetrator and most likely the perpetrator and the child they are staying together for a longer duration. Secondly, many violence prevention and response services they remain suspended or interrupted because the governments all over they had to prioritize the services that they were providing, and they were prioritizing different public health interventions and those kind of things. Because many of the services were suspended because lockdowns were imposed in different parts of the world. Now, more than half of the countries reported disruptions in case management, referral services, home visits by child welfare and social workers to children and women and abuse. So many countries have these provisions where you have social workers, where you have child welfare workers, they will visit homes and they will ask, they will interview people within the homes, they will try to find out signs of different kind of abuses, and they will find out the signs of abuse and they will take necessary intervention. But because of the lockdowns that was imposed, all these services were also interrupted. Social workers and welfare workers, they were not able to visit homes, and again, they were not able to visit homes, they will not be able to understand what's going on. Apart from that, violence prevention programs, children's access to child welfare authorities, national health services, they have all been affected in many countries. Apart from that, limited contact with informal support networks and community members leave children and families more vulnerable. So what has happened? You are following social distancing, as a result of which engagement with families, engagement with relatives, engagement with friends, that has also got reduced. People have reduced the frequency with which they used to meet with one another. So these are all the informal support network that one has, family, friends, relatives. So contact with the informal support network has reduced, and on top of that, contact with the community workers, interaction at the community level has also gone down. So both of these things can increase the risk of violence, because again, the person who is suffering from violence will not find channels by which they can get it out, will not find out channels by which they can report it. So as they're not able to report it, the perpetrator is also emboldened, they can also continue committing their crimes. So all these things makes children vulnerable, but also these are also the reasons why elderly can also be more vulnerable. These are also the reasons why women can also be more vulnerable to different forms of abuse. Now, the UNICEF report makes a very interesting statement. It says that decades of progress on children's health, education, and other priorities risk of being wiped out. This is how things might pan out. So whatever progress we have made over decades when it comes to health, education, and other things, they can be wiped out because of what is going on right now, because of the outbreak of the pandemic and the response to the pandemic. And in the process, when responding to the pandemic, we have probably left out some services. Now let's look at another dimension here. Moving from child violence against children, let's move to another dimension: child labor. We have a rough idea what child labor means, and we already know that as per our laws, those who are in the age category less than 14 years, they're not allowed to carry out any labor activities except for activities within household, except for working in the farm sector or working in the television cinema industries. But all these things should also happen only during the holidays, or only during the non-study hours, non-school hours. So child labor is something that is not allowed, and those who are in the age category 15 to 18 years, they can work, but again, they should not be employed in different kind of hazardous occupations. So this is something that we already know. Now, what is the extent of child labor in case of India? Now, in India, there are some 260 million children who are in the age category 5 to 14 years, but out of them, almost 10 million children, they are working directly or indirectly, and they work across sectors. They can work in different warehouses, they can work as rack pickers, they can also sometimes work as vendors on the street, they will sell different kind of things. So out of 260 million children, 10 million children are working in some way or other. What is the reason why you have such levels of child labor? Why 1 crore children in India are working when they're not supposed to work? There are different reasons, and we have seen these reasons. There are some supply side reasons, and then there are some demand side reasons. What is the supply side reason? There is a massive poverty in case of India, and since there is high level of poverty, many times the parents are faced with a difficult choice whether they would want their kids to go out and work so that they can earn some amount of money so that they can feed themselves, or the more difficult choice is they do not send their kids to work, and they might starve and they might die of hunger. So they have to make this difficult choice, and generally they will opt for that choice, which gets them some food, and they don't have to sleep hungry. So that is the reason a lot of children go out and work because parents do not have much choice. And again, over the time, what has happened is a particular kind of mindset has also developed among some social sections, those who are at the bottom of the hierarchy, that by the time a child reaches 12 or 13 years age, then they should become the providers for the family, and they should leave their home, they should search for a job in the city, and whatever money they're earning, they should send it back to their homes so that the parents can have a better standard of life. So this has happened. Now, how demand impacts child labor? Sometimes demand can also impact child labor. There are certain sectors in the economy which prefer to have child laborers, for example, crackers industry or carpet industries. Certain characteristics of the sector makes them want to have more child laborers. Also, it is easy for employers to control child laborers because child laborers will not be demanding. They will not be forming any unions. Their bargaining powers will be very less. Also, the children are fast learners. They can easily train to do different kind of activities. So supply side reasons are there, demand side reasons are there. But supply side is the most important, most significant factor which contributes to child labor. Now, how the pandemic has created conducive circumstances for increasing child labor, or how the pandemic can increase the incidence of child labor. Now, what has happened? Because of the pandemic, we use different strategies. One of the strategies was having lockdowns for extended periods. So almost we had a 3-month pause of work. And during this period, what happened? The factories remained shut, or they were working in suboptimal capacity. Also, what has happened is the demand has gone down, so the factories are not operating the way they should be. They would have been in the past. Now, all these things has depleted the savings of many families, and many families don't even have savings. They need money on a day-to-day basis for their own subsistence. And if that is the case, just imagine how much poor they are. And if they are this poor, then what are the options they have in front of them? That's the question. We already know that poverty is one of the major reasons, supply side reason why you have so many child laborers in case of India. So those families who do not have sufficient savings, they do not have sufficient sources of income, these families are most likely to send their children to different kind of work. The children in these families are more likely to go out to find work. And when children aren't being pushed directly to work, they may be facing different stress, abuse, mental illness due to the added pressure on the caretakers. Because those who are taking care of these children, they might also be putting different kind of pressure on these children. They might be subjected to different kind of abuse because the members of the family or the caretakers themselves are not in a very good situation, financial position. So the instances of child labor most likely is going to increase, and apart from that, the children also face different threats like abuse from the caretakers. Now, the next part is, do we have proper mechanisms? Do we have proper institutions to address violence, to address the instances of child labor? Now, in 2018, there was a study conducted by UNICEF, and what they did was they went to some states and they studied 2 districts from each of these states to understand the extent of abuse and what kind of abuse violence children face. What are some of the ways by which, what are some of the institutions mechanisms that we have to address it, are they working properly or not? So they go to the state of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and they study 2 districts each in each of these states. They find out that 30 different forms of violence. It can be physical violence, emotional violence, verbal violence, all these things children are facing, and sometimes they are also witness to domestic violence. Physical violence can include slapping, burning, beating. Emotional violence can include restricting the movement of children. It can also include denying food to children. Verbal means shouting, criticizing, and sometimes the children have to witness domestic violence that happens within the households. Sometimes there is institutional abuse as well, especially children those who have different kind of learning disabilities. For example, the child is not able to learn things, the child is not able to read, write. His peers are able to do it, but the child is not able to do it. So they might face different kind of abuse within the institutions. They might face these kind of abuses within schools, for example, or different kind of other institutions where these kind of things can be provided. For example, before they start schools, right, they might go to Anganwadis or they might go to other preschool setups. They might face these problems. And many times what happens is, since the children are having different kind of learning disabilities and they're subjected to different kind of abuse, and this might create such traumatic experience for the child that the child might leave home and just leave away. They will just move out of their homes and they will go to the streets. That happens. In fact, 15% of the children on the street have some form of learning disability. Now, do we have any legal mechanisms for children? We have different legal mechanisms. So we have National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights. Again, we have a scheme, the Integrated Child Protection Scheme. Also, we have child welfare committees at the district level. Each state sets up different child welfare committees, and then there are different kind of district level interventions for the children as well. So we have an infrastructure out there to address the challenges children face, different kind of challenges. But what is the efficiency of these? What is the effectiveness of all these mechanisms? Now, there have been different studies along these lines. So there is a Save the Child Children report, and what it did was it reviewed all these mechanisms at different places. It studied 7 states, and they found out that only 3 states, only Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, and West Bengal, have set up CWC child welfare committees in all the districts. Many states have not set up child welfare committees in all the districts. That means the grassroots involvement when it comes to protecting children is not there at the country level. Apart from that, we can also look at how much money is being allocated by the central government, the union budget. How much has been allocated for the kids, for the children? Generally, 3 to 4% of the union budget is allocated for children. And the 2020-21 budget saw an increase in allocation from 350 crores to 1,500 crores for different kind of child protection services. But if you look at the percentage of allocation as compared to the budget, it has fallen. So allocation of child protection services fell by 1.43% from last year. So the amount has increased, but if you compare it with the total budget, the percentage that has fallen. Also, what kind of policies were taken up by the government for protection of children during the time of lockdown. Initially, when the lockdown was announced, the first few weeks, so many NGOs which provide essential services to the children, which provide different kind of protection services to the children, many of these NGOs they were not considered to be essential services. So the workers in these NGOs were not provided essential worker certificate. But over a period of time, things changed, and this categorization also changed, and eventually NGOs, charities, they all permitted the passes. So previously, since they did not have the passes, they were not able to operate. Only when they were locally connected and had some political connections, they were able to intervene. Knowledge, they were not able to intervene. So what we observe here is the policy of the government was something which was reactive, it was not proactive. The government did not think through when they initiated the lockdown, they did not think about, they did not probably prioritize the needs of the children. Only when they realized that things are not working as expected, then only they went into this policy. Now, during this lockdown, there has been anxiety, there has been uncertainty, there is definitely going to be increase in poverty. Look at the GDP numbers, how it has crashed. Look at the unemployment numbers. CMI data talks about that. Look at how many people have had wage cuts, not just jobless, many people have also had wage cuts. So definitely poverty is going to increase, anxiety has been increasing, and there's going to be uncertainty. So all these things can make children even more vulnerable because all these elements, poverty, anxiety, uncertainty, can impact those who are potential abusers. These are all stress conditions. They can impact those who can probably abuse, and since children have to spend a long duration within the households, they are extremely at risk. So there's a need for a comprehensive intervention policy, a cohesive multi-level child protection network, and we need to have collaboration between civil society and the state. This is something that the state cannot do on its own because again, the reach of the state will be less, the capacity of the state is definitely less. It cannot go and go in every institution, every home, and find out what is happening. So you have to take the help of civil society. There has to be greater engagement between civil society and the state, then only things will be better. So this is how children are extremely vulnerable during the time of pandemic, and what probably needs to be done, what can be done to probably mitigate the issues that they are facing. So thank you.